Let's talk about day 3 of training camp and look at some highlights and standout players. Reid letting everybody know that Kadarius Toney had knee surgery this morning and then processed through what that could mean for the rest of the receiver room. But first, how about those? All right, day 3 of training camp wrapped up today with only 3 players not seen out there working, and those were defensive tackle Nic Jones, wide receiver Kadarius Toney, and defensive tackle Turk Wharton. Toney hurt his knee day 1 during camp warmups. Much more on that later in this video. Turk is still rehabbing his ACL and is on the PUP list, and then Nic Jones is currently holding out from camp during his contract negotiations with the team. And if you want more details on Nic Jones, I covered him much more extensively in the past 2 videos, but he is reportedly wanting close to $30 million per year, and things are at a bit of a stalemate between Nic Jones and his representation and the Chiefs. But hopefully behind the scenes, some things are progressing and getting closer to an actual agreement between both parties, and we see him here at camp within the next week or so. And I guess I should mention, because I haven't yet, that with Nic Jones not there, defensive tackle Daniel Wise has been lining up next to Derek Nottie in his stead. And if you are sitting here thinking, who is Daniel Wise? Well, that is exactly why we need Nic Jones to get this deal done and have him back out there. And before we get to Toney's injury update, as well as the thoughts of Mahomes on the situation, as well as his thoughts on the rest of the wide receiver room, let's look at some highlights and standouts from today's practice. Justin Reid was actually the first player out on the field this morning, I believe, and was actually out there to kick some field goals, which could come in handy this year. I mean, if you remember, Butker got hurt week 1 and Justin had to step in for field goals and kickoffs, so you never know. Clyde Edwards-Helaire and McKinnon could be seen walking out together to practice, and someone recently asked me how CEH has been doing since we haven't heard much, really anything at all about him, rather, during camp. Well, with Pacheco still limited, the Chiefs opened up 11 on 11 with 5 run plays, with CEH getting the first 3, then Prince getting 1, then McKinnon. And none of this is really a surprise. CEH will be getting reps this season, in my opinion, quite possibly more than expected to start the season off as they ease Pacheco back in. I mean, Pacheco said he's going to be ready for week 1 and wants to go 100% each and every play, but dude, they're going to have to ease this man in because shoulder surgery is no joke. He's still wearing that yellow vest after all, but he did get some reps in on 7-on-7s today. And it's worth noting though that we will get more info and reports on the running back room as a whole when the pads come on, the big shoulder pads on Friday, as they will be able to do much more during practice. And speaking of running backs, Big Red complimented the talent of the old veteran Jerick McKinnon and said even though he's a quote dinosaur, he's a former QB, super smart, able to help out on offense and special teams. And McKinnon, he might have disagreed just a little bit about being a dinosaur.
I feel young. I still got the juice. I don't know about Yoda. Well seasoned.
McKinnon also weighed in on the running back situation as a whole in the NFL today. He said running backs are asked to do a lot nowadays, from running the ball to pass protection and also becoming a receiver at times, catching passes out of the backfield. And it's become such a pass-happy league that the position has indeed become devalued, which is tough from a monetary standpoint, which is unfortunate. But with the market determining the value and the top running backs in the league getting franchise tagged, it's just how the business goes sometimes and how things are currently playing out at the moment. He's personally just grateful to still be in the league and performing at a high level, and noted that previously playing quarterback has indeed helped him in his connection with Patrick Mahomes on the field. Next up, something small that caught my eye during warmups this morning was Rashee Rice wearing what appeared to be a compression sleeve with a bit of padding on the right knee, which is probably nothing. Maybe he's got a bruise there or something, but he was out there working today in teams and could be seen catching this pass from Mahomes in the middle of the field, so looks to be out there moving fine. Skyy Moore could be seen taking a direct snap in Wildcat, which is something we saw last year at camp, I believe, and that didn't end up happening in an actual game, but hey, maybe this season we will see something like that from Skyy in his likely to be increased role in the offense for year 2. Skyy also snagged this nice sidearm pass, as well as this pass against Casper in the red zone period. The defense had a nice day as well, with L'Jarius Sneed breaking up this intended pass for Travis Kelce here. The rookie defensive back Nic Jones picked off Mahomes in the middle of the field during 7s, with Kelce once again being the intended target. And this is not the first time Nic Jones has made a nice play, and he's definitely turning heads out there. Something else that turned some heads in a great way was Nazeeh Johnson being seen out there getting reps with the ones, and we could honestly have ourselves a nice little DB battle between Nic Jones and Nazeeh Johnson. Another cornerback who made a great play was Joshua Williams, who tipped up this pass intended for John Ross and kept his eyes on the ball to follow through for a nice interception, with the defense going wild in approval. Tranquill also made a couple of nice back-to-back back-to-back plays, and that is someone Mahomes is glad is now on his team instead of a division rival because...
I hated playing against him because he's one of those linebackers that's like calling out what you're saying at the line of scrimmage because he studies that much. And so I've already had to make up like all brand new code words because I can hear him on the other side.
He also said the linebacker room from top to bottom is very talented and one of the best in the league, and I definitely agree. Another position group of the defense I have my eyes on is the defensive line, and while Chris Jones isn't there yet, I'm excited for the free agency addition of Charles Omenihu, who is here and ready to go. He's been getting acclimated and said Andy Reid's camp is definitely challenging so far, but this type of camp pushes you to be sharp mentally and push your body physically.
Credit to Coach Reid and the way he structures camp. He makes you grind, man, to where practice is harder than the game. So I think for me personally, that was a big thing for me, is like pushing through and not just pushing through to get through, but pushing through to still be impactful.
He's ready for the pads to come on because iron sharpens iron, and he said with two talented tackles like Jawan Taylor and Donovan Smith, they provide great competition, and he even asks them from time to time for things they see in his own game that he could do better. He said he likes asking the offensive line on ways that he can improve. They offer a different perspective, and dude, I thought that was a great way to go about it personally. I mean, for what my opinion is worth. And now for the biggest news of the day, Kadarius Toney, who, as you are all well aware, he hurt his knee during warmups on the first day of camp, like within the first few minutes. It was described at first as a knee tweak, but then yesterday Adam Schefter reported that, quote, Chiefs wide receiver Kadarius Toney, who underwent an off-season cleanup procedure on his knee, aggravated the injury Sunday while fielding a punt and is expected to miss some time during training camp, but could be ready for the start of the regular season, per league source. And honestly, this report is not very accurate. Kadarius Toney responded after this report surfaced saying the report wasn't fully true, but he will be back soon. And it turns out that Toney did not have any off-season knee surgery at all. Actually, he had it this morning, okay? So not earlier, but this morning. Andy Reid opened his presser saying that Kadarius Toney damaged the meniscus in his knee when he tried changing directions after catching a punt, and said they're glad the issue was caught early and things looked good, I guess, inside his knee when they repaired it. So couple positives, I guess. However, when asked if he believed Toney could return for week 1 against the Lions, Big Red said, there's a chance he returns for the first game, but we'll have to see just how recovery goes, and he didn't honestly sound very optimistic. A meniscus repair can take 4 to 8 weeks to recover, and sometimes even longer than that, but if anyone at all can get him right as soon as possible, it's going to be the Chiefs and their training staff. But even upon Toney's return, whenever that ends up being, they're going to have to ramp this man up and ease him in on a snap count, and he's not going to be given full reins in the offense for quite a while. And after all this happened, Toney actually took to Twitter today and liked my tweet about the mix-up of Adam's report, which I think adds to the validity that he did indeed not have surgery on his knee in the offseason, but just this morning. And then he said, when you're a warrior, nothing can stop you. Been fighting through old injuries, adversity, and obstacles all my life. I know God got me for show. Well, yes and amen to that. I'm definitely wishing Toney the quickest recovery, please. And thank you. But with Toney definitely missing all of camp, Nate Taylor of The Athletic reported that one of the issues for the Chiefs is that they were expecting Toney to continue building his chemistry, timing, and connection with Mahomes during camp. The Chiefs believe Toney, with a full offseason to fully understand Coach Andy Reid's complex playbook, is their top candidate to have a breakout season, a player who is capable of becoming the team's next star receiver. And Nate insinuates in this article that the Chiefs hedged their bets on Toney when they didn't sign somebody like Odell, D-Hop, or even Adam Thielen in free agency. Quote, that meant the Chiefs pushed all their chips in on Toney's developing into a dynamic playmaker who could generate more than 1,000 receiving yards. But the biggest question about Toney this offseason remained the same as when general manager Brett Veach acquired him in October from the New York Giants. Will he stay healthy? Well, Nate, so far, the answer is no. He has not been able to stay healthy, but let's see how it goes after he recovers from this knee cleanup of sorts that he had this morning. For the time being, the eyes now fall onto the rest of the receiving room, and that's where I want to push back a bit on Nate's article. What if the Chiefs were well aware of Toney's injury concerns? Okay, I mean, if we are, they are. Trust me. But in spite of all that, they believe they have a strong enough receiving room that even if Kadarius is unable to play for a full season, they can still get the job done. I mean, for starters, they have Travis Kelce, who is a tight end, I know, but he's going to more than likely have his 7th or 8th 1,000-yard season in a row. MVS and Richie James could both have well over 500 yards. Skyy is supposed to be taking a step up in year 2. There's a lot of positive talk on the rookie Rashee Rice as he continues making plays in camp, like this nice red zone touchdown from Mahomes. Some somewhat similar to the day prior. And then, he had another one sort of similar in that contested catch with McDuffie the day before that. So 3 days in a row, Rashee Rice is shining in red zone work, developing a nice rapport with Patrick Mahomes. Then you have fan favorite Justin Ross, who has been getting some first team reps out there fighting to make the back end of the room. Therefore, I would think if the Chiefs weren't confident enough in that room, especially given Toney's history of injuries, they would have added somebody else, but they didn't. And somebody said, well, it's because they had no money. Dude, if the Chiefs were believing that the room was not good enough and they were seriously concerned, they would have made things happen to free up enough cap space and sign somebody that they really thought would have helped the room, but they did not do that. So I have to believe that the staff likes what they see in that room. And Mahomes, he's also going to elevate some of these guys to levels not seen before. I mean, Mahomes doesn't seem overly concerned about not having Toney while he heals up, because when asked if he thinks anyone in particular will step up in his absence, he said this.
I think a lot of guys will kind of fill that role throughout training camp. I want guys to just be themselves. I think you've seen in this offense is it can be ran a lot of different ways. And so obviously when Kadarius is in there, we run it one way because of his talent and what he can do. And when he's not in there, we can run a different way to really accelerate the other guys' talents. And guys like Skyy Moore, Rashee Rice will step up as well as guys like Marquez and Justin Watson. I mean, we have a lot of tight ends. We have a lot of depth in this entire team this year. And so I'm just excited for guys to go out there and seize their opportunity.
And what Patrick said at the beginning is really true. Andy and Mahomes are the best at utilizing the skill set, the strengths of the players available in an incredibly efficient way. I mean, this isn't the standard, but just think of the AFC Championship game. Mahomes had no Justin Watson, Juju got injured, Toney got injured, McColl got injured. He was throwing first down passes to practice squad call-up Marcus Kemp. MVS had a heyday, and he had one good ankle. That's not the ideal way to play a game, but when push comes to shove, sorry, Mike, I just literally shoved you. Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are going to get the job done and raise the talent level of everybody in that room. Anyway, Mahomes said here at camp he's been testing guys, trying to teach them on the field tendencies that you can't teach in the meeting room and working through that. And speaking of the meeting room, Mahomes said Toney will be there in the meetings and still around during his recovery. And he thinks they built up a good connection during OTAs and does remain optimistic that Toney will still make an impact upon his return.
I mean, everybody knows how talented he is, and I'm just excited for him to learn the offense from the start. Last year, he picked it up as we're in advanced mode. Now he gets to see the beginner and work his way through it, and I'm excited for him when he gets back that he'll be ready to go.
So again, while he isn't able to build rapport with Toney during camp, he did during OTAs and said Toney has a much better grasp of the playbook now. So I guess my question to you guys from here is, which receiver do you think will take the biggest step up with Toney likely out at least the first few weeks of the regular season? Could it be one of the young guys in Rashee Rice, Skyy Moore, or maybe even Justin Ross? Or what about one of the veterans like MVS, Justin Watson, or Richie James? Who will it be? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?